UFC 313 goes down this weekend from T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada, more commonly referred to as Las Vegas. In the main event, it is Alex Pereira, pound-for-pound top fighter, taking on Magomed Ankalaev for the light heavyweight championship. And a former lightweight champion returns in the co-main event. So, should be an interesting fight. What are we looking for here in our first look at UFC 313? Yes, toxic, almost 3 hours. Yeah, this is a long one today. And probably, you know what? Could have planned it better because I'm going to be doing 2 hours of radio in 5.5 hours. So hitting the tee, hitting the halls pretty hard after this one here. So no video game stream today. But UFC 313. Pereira, this is a really... I've used this word too much tonight. It's a fascinating fight because he is a pound-for-pound king. I have him pound-for-pound number 2 right now in my rankings. He has fought some big names, but this is his toughest test. Ankalaev is the type of style matchup that we all assume will give Pereira some fits. Like he is the type of a grinder that you think a guy who comes from a kickboxing background would have some problems with. So when you look at the resume of a Pereira, like you look at, obviously like Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland, Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prochazka, champions all around, Jamal Hill, Prochazka again. Maybe not Khalil Roundtree, but like you have a bunch of guys who are former champions. And so if we were to do a light heavyweight tournament, I don't know if Ankalaev is coming out of that with a win necessarily. But because he has this style that Pereira hasn't really had to deal with before in this run, in the meteoric run in mixed martial arts, that it is one that presents the most questions for him and one that is a very interesting challenge for Pereira. So with so much potential in Pereira's future, this is a really bold fight for him to take and a really dangerous opponent. On the other hand, if he is able to pass this test and come away again as a 205-pound champion, one more time, the sky is the limit for opportunities that Pereira could get coming up in 2025. But he is taking on a guy who has a very real chance in Magomed Ankalaev, who is coming into this one at 19-1-1 with one no contest. He had the opportunity for the title in 2022, fighting for the vacant championship, and then it was a draw. He goes off, fights Johnny Walker. There's an illegal knee. Walker's not able to continue, so we have to do that fight again. He beats Walker, beats Rakic in convincing fashion at UFC 308, setting him up for a title opportunity. But it felt like he was right there for a title chance, couldn't quite do it against Blachowicz, maybe wasn't quite ready for that chance, but now he feels like he is ready for this title opportunity. So he is deserving of a title chance. He does get a little bit lost in the shuffle at times, but I do think that, again, his skill set and the resume and the build up to this fight means that this is a very game and very dangerous challenger coming up on Saturday night. The other story around this is that there have been big changes to the co-main event. Dan Hooker is out, and you get Fiziev in there with a rematch. Rafael Fiziev and Justin Gaethje will do the dance again in the lightweight division. And so now you have... you go from, okay, this is an intriguing fight to, oh, there are stories here. Fiziev, he lost, like when these guys fought, Fiziev on a bit of a roll, right? Like we were talking about, like, okay, this is the type of like all action fighter in a fight against Gaethje. He's coming off some good wins, like Moicano. That's a good, Bobby Green, that's a good win. Rafael dos Anjos, not the win that it was probably 5 years ago, but that's still a good win back in 2022. And now he's going into this huge fight on a huge stage, pay-per-view against Justin Gaethje, and he loses. And so that just stopped a lot of the momentum that he had, where he went from exciting upstart prospect to, maybe there's a ceiling here. And then it gets doubled up on because his next fight, he fights Mateusz Gamrot, and he injures his knee in that fight and hasn't fought since. There was supposed to be a rematch that never officially happened, and now he checks in here on very late notice for this fight. And so you have a guy who hasn't fought since September of 2023, who hasn't won since July of 2022, and all of a sudden, this is a fight for his career. It kind of feels like. I don't think they'll cut him if he loses to Justin Gaethje. A lot of people lose to Justin Gaethje. But I think that like, again, that upward trajectory going toward a title opportunity, that pretty well gets stopped. And for Gaethje, he has lost before, right? Like, he has come off of losses at different times in his career. I would suggest no one's lost like that before, where you were a favorite coming in, you got pieced up for 5 rounds, and then with a second left, you were on the receiving end of one of the most badass otherworldly knockouts in the history of the sport. By the way, at UFC 300, probably the most stacked card in the history of ever. And it is it was a stacked card top to bottom, and it was the defining highlight of the entire night was you getting knocked out. That, at 36, is a tough one to come back from. So we will see what is Justin Gaethje's mental state, because he has always come back and he has always been in high action fights. But that, like, not to sound too dramatic or whatever, but that has to change a guy a little bit, right? So what does Gaethje look like coming back and coming off of an all-time bad loss, going up against a guy who is desperate in this fight to not lose 3 in a row? So a lot of very interesting stories going into UFC 313. More UFC 313 coverage as the week goes on, as we will look at the undercard fighters to watch on this card, and then coming up later on in the week as well, a full preview for at least the main card for UFC 313.